These are handouts. Nathan, hello.
Did you see Ian? I haven't seen him. He said we should collect people's names and then, it's already on. This one's. I'll talk to you later.
It's about 5 or 6 minutes. So for 3 years, I'm not going to be able to go downtown.
At least it's not bored or
We're going to start in about 2 minutes. We got some people still signing in, so if you want to start making your way to your seats, that would be fantastic.
I'll see you tomorrow. Well, I'll see you tomorrow.
I think what they're probably going to unveil is the two-year neighbor shop. Do that. Right, but yet they're still going to plow ahead with this. So, what the super neighborhood is gives them
This is not going to be one of those.
This is a mildly confused for me. It's
We're going to get started.
so we're two joint, 263 and for joint, so it's 5.
Thank you all very much for coming. This is an issue that I know a lot of people are very interested closely together on what we can do to better our quality of life in the East End. So tonight has a very specific focus. We're going to address the notice to abandon Polk, which is that sign that you see right outside of the George R. Brown Convention Center, and that has a lot of people alarmed, so we want to talk through that. So our main three objectives are to provide you with clear information about the proposed abandonment, about the process, what that looks like, outline the options available to our community, including timelines, and to hear your thoughts through public comment. So because we have a lot of people here, and we want to be able to accomplish these goals effectively, we're going to ask that you hold your questions until public comment. That will allow us to present all the necessary information first, giving you a complete picture before the discussion begins. And then also, just as a side, we really want to try to keep this about the notice to abandon Polk Street and alternates to that. So without further ado, we're going to go ahead and talk to Councilmember Martinez here. He's going to start us off on some information.
Good evening, everyone. First, thank you for being here. I know everybody be with your family, your friends, or dinner, someone else. This is important to you all. This is important to you all. This is also important to me as well. I want to also just thank Councilmember Ramirez who's here. We also have staff from Councilmember Patricia Plummer. Raise your hand. Castillo as well. And this, of course, staff from Councilmember Ramirez as well. And am I missing anybody else from the city? And I cannot forget, of course, my team. I want to thank Juan Pablo, who's here, Director of Constituent Services. Priscilla as well, who's my content engagement manager. And then Christina, who's my policy and agenda analyst. Yeah, these are all great people. And then definitely want to make sure that I give you all a shout out to Super Neighborhood. So the Super Neighborhood, Magnolia Park, Manchester, Eastwood, Lawndale, and Second Ward. It actually is, so these are two district offices. So Second Ward Super Neighborhood is in H. It's important for them to be here because, as you all know, the East End, not everybody recognizes what district lines are. You know, for you all, you just know y'all live in the East End. Sometimes you might know who your council member is, but if you were knocking on your neighbor's door, they're not going to tell you where the line is. And so for me, it was important that, of course, we had folks here from other districts, but also, of course, we had large council members. I want to, again, just thank Councilmember Ramirez. We're lockstep as far as what we want to see happen here tonight, and then also moving forward. And so with that, I want to also introduce a few other folks. So we have from Public Works, Real Estate, Addie Jackson. Thank you, Addie. You're going to be up here in a bit, so don't go too far. And then, of course, Assistant Deputy Director, or Tran? Assistant Real Estate Manager, Tran. And then we also should have somebody from Transportation, Drainage, and Operation. Have they made it yet? No. Okay. And then just definitely want to thank, of course, folks from TechStop. Many of y'all could remember this is the conversation that we had for the past few years, and it shows to you exactly what was intended for Polk. Back then, about a couple of years ago, the conversation was Polk is being closed. We said, no, it's not. There's a lot of heavy lifting that was done to make sure that Polk still had a route into downtown. That route into downtown is in this drawing. So if you don't have it, just know that this is what was intended prior to about 2 weeks ago, when Lindsay texted me early in the morning with a sign saying, hey, what's going on with this? And quite frankly, I was caught up unprepared as well. So we did a lot of digging. We ended up finding out that the applicant for what we call a JRC, the Joint Referral Committee, it's open, and in a bit, I'm gonna ask Public Works to come up to talk about high level, what is a JRC? It was submitted by Houston First. Some of y'all might have already been hearing in the news. There's a huge expansion for the George R. Brown. The expansion is moving south, other side of Polk. This was still known even a few years ago. The conversation was about the George R. Brown expanding, but we were still going to have access. In those conversations a few years back, what we have been having as well with Public Works is how can we, knowing that the East End has been blocked by the George R. Brown, the Dynamo Stadium, and then we also had some streets that were just turned into one-ways as well, like Franklin, Commerce, I believe. How can we continue to increase the number of east-west connections into downtown? And we'll have some opportunities for you all to give us feedback, but some of the things that we discussed were Eden, up on the north side of the downtown Commerce, Franklin. Some of the more recent conversations that I've had, and I've had this conversation with it's important to share everybody's name. Chris Larson, who is the president of Downtown Plus. Downtown Plus essentially is it's the redevelopment authorities, the terms and management districts that are in downtown. They focus on downtown, but of course everything that happens in downtown, we understand how that impacts us with the general fund, whether it's through the sales tax, the hot tax, how that brings more revenue into our city. And so it's important that we understand that asset and how we can make it better for everybody in the city of Houston. And so the conversations I've had more recently with Chris Larson is that he is on board to continue to advocate for more east-west connections as well. I've had conversations with Houston First. At the moment, I don't know if somebody's here, but I did ask for somebody from Houston First to be here to also take notes and also hear what's going on. They have a huge task to try and have this expansion done by 2026. So sometimes when folks are not elected, they don't go out and have these type of meetings, right? And so we have to encourage them to have these type of meetings. So this one, again, was set up by the superintendent, but is happy to be here to answer more questions. But I do plan on having another meeting with Houston First to share with y'all what is it that they want to do. With that said, before we dive into more of Polk specifically, if I can have Addie or folks from Public Works come up and speak to the JRC process.
Good evening, how are y'all? Good. Okay, well, thank you for the invitation to speak, because we have been getting a lot of calls, as y'all can imagine. My name is Addie Jackson. I'm the Assistant Director of Real Estate Services, and with me this evening is Train B. So our JRC process is done within our asset management group. Our asset management process is surplus and any sort of abandonment of street rights of way and alley, which is where this lies. So we will be happy to answer any questions that we can regarding the JRC process. So city abandonments, just so you know, our process falls under two principal statutes. The first one is Texas Local Government Code Section 272, and the other one is our own City Code of Ordinance Section 2-237 and 238. And so what I have here is actually a QR code to our JRC webpage. So if you can scan it, I don't know if you can scan it from where you're seated, I will place it somewhere. And the reason thank you. The reason I did the QR code, now if you're not tech savvy like myself, you can go to houstontx.gov. When you put in the search JRC, it will be the first to pop up under the search. It links you directly to the state statute as well as the city code of ordinances that monitor this process. So the JRC is our joint referral committee. What that committee does is when an applicant submits an application to abandon a street, an alley, any sort of right-of-way, they review it. Now, the JRC committee is composed of 8 different individuals from various departments within the city of Houston. We have TDO, Transportation, Drainage, and Operations. We have someone in legal, we have someone in OCE, the Office of City Engineer, someone in IDS, which is our infrastructure group. We also have someone from planning that's actually outside of Houston Public Works. And I feel like Houston Fire Department and the Houston Police Department as well. So all of these individuals will review the application and we'll get 1 of 3 responses. We'll get no, that means it ends right there. We'll send a denial letter. We'll get a yes, or we'll get a yes with requirements and comments. And once we get either of the 2 yeses, we move on to the next phase, which is the sign posting. And that's where we are now. So we will post a sign within whatever right-of-way that is being abandoned for 30 days. And the reason we do that is to notify the public, so we can have opportunities like this. We collect the comments, we forward them when necessary, and that is where we are now. So we are actually very early on in the process. So once the 30 days have expired, we will then send a contact letter. The contact letter goes to the applicant, in this case, Houston First. And essentially the contact letter says, okay, we've gone ahead, you've been approved, we've passed that phase, and this is what you need to do in order to move to the next phase. This is what you need to do to complete the abandonment. And again, on that website, it's very handy. You can see sample contact letters that may have requirements that say cut, plug, and abandon or something like that, whatever is required. After that, the city property that is being abandoned will have to be surveyed. It has to be done, we have to get an appraisal, it has to be sold for fair market value. At that time, the other thing we also have to do, and that actually we don't have to do this, but the applicant has to do this. Can you hear? Oh, there we go. You have to contact Centerpoint, and they also have to contact AT&T. And the reason they actually have to contact these private entities is because the city has franchise agreements that allows. Can y'all hear me?
Yeah. Through the
city
podium microphone.
Is that one? Oh. The city has franchise agreements with AT&T and Centerpoint. So if AT&T and Centerpoint have infrastructure and whatever right-of-way that's being abandoned, that would need to be cleared by them. So we will then get an approval letter. They'll say, okay, it needs to be relocated or it's fine there. But that doesn't actually pertain to the city. We just need to make sure that that requirement is fulfilled. After you've done that, the city also does a similar process. We look at it if the city has a water line or infrastructure within the street that's being abandoned, we then say, okay, it either needs to be relocated or we get an easement back so our infrastructure can remain there. After that, we then essentially hope they'll pay. If it's gotten to that point, we will get the fair market value, and that's when everything is done. We will then prepare the action to go before council. And we cannot sell any property, we can't abandon any sort of property within the city of Houston without council approval. We'll prepare the RCA, it will get on council agenda, and after council approves it, we will then get a city ordinance. The certified copy of the city ordinance is then sent to the applicant. That is the document that actually transfers the property from the city of Houston and puts it in the applicant's name. They are responsible for recording in the real property records, and that's what actually transfers title to the city. So the process that I described is what is done for every application, regardless of if it's if it is mom and dad Jackson, if it's a church, they all go through the same process. So that is it as far as a high-level overview of the JRC process and what we do and what we're doing for this particular transaction. Right now, we're at the city posting March 3rd. So the sign has been up since January 31st, and we keep the sign up for 30 days.
Is there opportunity for extension of that?
To get feedback, we can get feedback throughout the life of the project. So we can still get feedback. The contact information that's on there, if you drive by it, take note of it, write it down. Also, the website will give you inclinations of who you can call. I'll leave my business cards if somebody has any questions regarding it. If it's a question we can answer, we will. And I will likely actually refer you to training because she's over the group that does the transactions.
So before we go on, my colleague has to step out. He has another appointment, but I just wanted to thank Councilmember Rodriguez for being here. He did out. He's not running away from anything. We're going to continue to have conversations about what's going on. And so what I want to discuss here, I guess it was two Mondays ago? 2 Mondays ago, whenever I found out, my commitment to you all was that I wanted to make sure that we had access to Polk. There have been some conversations about what can Polk look like. It's not a complete closure from what I've been hearing. It's that pedestrian and cyclists will have access to Polk still. I want to make sure that we have Houston First out here as well soon. the reason why they're not here right now, as I mentioned to some folks, was that they're in the middle of bids, and so you can't discuss a lot of the things that are going on because there's folks that are submitting, request for proposal for some of the work that's being done with the expansion. They should be, and the reason why I asked for the extension, they should be wrapping that up within the next couple of weeks. So within the next couple of weeks, we will have a better idea of what is it that's what their intentions are for Polk. In saying that, again, I want to make sure that we continue to have access at Polk. I also want to make sure that, as your elected official, that are honest and transparent. What are other options, right? We all know that things can move quicker and faster. Certain projects, this one specifically, and actually I forgot to thank Adam Douglas, who's with Downtown Plus, who's here. So he's here to listen as well. So he works with Chris Larson, who I mentioned earlier. It's all hands on deck, is what I'm trying to say on our end. With that said, I really want to hear from you all. Thoughts on Polk. We know there's a bike lane that goes straight to downtown. What does that look like if it were to be moved? And Marina, thank you for being here. State Representative Morales as well. What does that look like? Vehicular traffic. I take Polk, I take Lincoln, I take all the streets coming into downtown after I drop off my kids at school. And so I know that that's going to create congestion somewhere else. And so we can alleviate that by having more two-way traffic coming into downtown. I'm interested in that. We also know that thinking of next year, 2026 with FIFA, we're about to have, y'all probably have heard these statistics, it's about 30 Super Bowls every game that is here. Pretty much almost every day for a whole month. And so we are going to see a huge influx of people. They're not used to Houston vehicular traffic, right? That's what we depend on a lot here. Some of these folks it's an international game, so folks are coming from across the world that are ready to walk, ready to scooter, ready to cycle. And so that is also in the forefront of my thought process when we're having this conversation about Polk. So it's not as simple as like yes or no, but I do want to make sure that we have an open dialogue. My team will continue to take notes throughout this meeting. We're going to just done everything. I have had conversations with the mayor. The mayor was pretty disappointed, quite frankly, that there was no communication. The signs went up before the community knew, and so he's holding Houston first to making sure that we are having this conversation soon. And I'm trying to think if there's anything else I need to share right now. Thank you for being here. If there's any specific questions to the JRC, y'all can just stick around for a bit. Appreciate it. With that being said, I want to open up, and this is not my meeting, by the way. This is not my meeting, but I am here to open it up to however y'all want to continue the process. I'll stay up here, I can sit down, you let me know.
Well, I did want to start with some questions that we had prepared, to see what you can do to understand a little bit more. Stay in my phone.
Can you use the mic?
Can't hear you.
I have questions prepared. It's never Eastwood type meeting unless there's a technical problem. Community Eastwood, this is all the time. So I apologize, I swear. So we talked about like what is suggested to happen with Polk Street. And one of the things that you talked about is having two-way traffic on England. And one of the things that I'm thinking about as trying to maybe extend is that there are 30 plus activations on the West Bell crossing, it's Hackberry Crossing at Leland, and that comes up to 5.5 hours per day, assuming that the train does not stop. And today there was a 2-hour stop. To make that intersection inaccessible for 7.5 hours. So even if we make Leland a two-way, is there going to be even any option to consider a great separation there? Because it's going to all the traffic into the east end.
So without moving too far off of the Polk conversation, great separation is something that has been important for us. I know that folks love quiet zones, and believe me, I live a block away from the train my whole life. Eventually you get used to it, just saying. But I prefer to invest those dollars into great separation. I continue to have meetings with Union Pacific. I had one last week. They're committed to continue to update their technology at the yards. This 2-hour wait is something that we don't see regularly, but we used to see 8 years ago, 9 years ago. As my kids go to a KIT on Lawndale, and we'd be there for 6 hours, right? The train would be there, on Lockwood. And so grade separation is going to always be, and we appreciate, and I do this all the time because it's important. But for Eastwood, we would not have seen some dollars come into from the federal government. When they start, yeah, definitely. As elected officials and government, we can continue to advocate and do all the work that we can, but at the end of the day, you all have a responsibility as well. And once you all were informed about who regulated the trains, the FRA, you knew who your elected official was, and y'all started pressing the right buttons. And because of that, we're going to get grade separation at York, Santon, and Commerce. That same push and drive needs to continue. Somebody like Lindsay, who's a great advocate for you all, is doing a heck of a job. And of course, the train committee, and then some of y'all know the folks at the Eastern Management District who have also taken a huge responsibility by having Jack Hannegriff, who worked for the city of Houston, who's now doing amazing work in getting data. And so again, without really steering too far off the Polk, grade separation is going to be top of my priority. This administration at the federal level might make it more difficult. But that doesn't mean we stop. That means we continue to get data, because at the end of the day, that data allows us to be more competitive for these grants. And so I thank them. We had a meeting about 6 months ago, 7 months ago. We lost people in public works that were needing these grant applications for us. They got these the dollars for Commerce, York, and Santon. And my ask to the community when they came to my office and we spoke was, who else represents you? Who else can you talk to be able to apply for some of these things? And so, thank you for Commissioner Garcia for helping to lead some of that charge. It was an 80-20 local federal match. We got some money. I think it's about $250 that the county and the city are contributing. But it wasn't us. We didn't have the manpower for people to do the actual application. But then we did have some resources to be able to contribute towards that. And so that was because, again, you all doing what y'all are doing today. So, grade separation, priority. Median is a priority. There's about 4 to 5 at grade crossings between Cullen, Median, then keep going up to, like, you said 4 or 5 all the way up the West Coast. If you don't know what the West Coast is, just Google it. It's quick find.
Y'all can come talking about transit tonight, I promise. Yes. So just to clarify, it is possible to make Leland a two-way.
It is possible. That's the conversation. Chris Larson, Public Works. I spoke to Randy Mackay, who's the director for Public Works. I've shared this with the mayor as well. We need to see an increase in the east-west connection.
What needs to be done?
Hang on. Hey, hang on a second. We want to make sure that we get through a couple questions really quick. One last question before we get to public comment. So what can super neighborhoods and civic associations do to best advocate for our residents?
Y'all are doing it now. How many calls have you gotten for this particular GRC process? What's the average? So on average, people that call that number whenever a sign is posted is about 3. It's a lot, which is 3 times whatever that a lot number is. It's more than 3 times. It's probably in the 50s or 60s maybe. So continue to do that. That documentation will be shared with, and as Addie mentioned, there's about a handful of different departments that are reviewing this, right? It's not just Public Works. It's going to be the fire department. It's going to be the police department. It's the planning department. So the more calls that y'all bring to that process, it's important. I'm sure they're going to take that into consideration as well to some extent. But then also, Kyle and Tina, thank you for showing up to council. I've been saying this. I've been in office a little bit over a year. You hardly see district-wide residents show up to public session. For whatever reason, I get it. I have 4 kids. I know we're busy. I got a job, right? So on. But when when you show up to public session and bring that to the rest of my colleagues' attention, it says something. There's a neighborhood up in the Northeast, it's NAC, Northeast Action Committee. They were able to advocate for $20 million for drainage projects. There's one thing that I'm a proponent of, a huge advocate of, is you all coming and activating your community at public session as well. So come. I think last week I had the most people coming for public session. It's something that's not normal at City Hall, but I welcome you all to come to City Hall as much as possible.
All right, so we're going to go and open it up to the public. Start by raising your hands. And there's one question here.
So, real
All right,
quick, he had the first question, but I can take that.
That's fine.
Suggestions for the two-way. And just so y'all know, whenever these things are done, it's not like we just close it down, or let me just do this. There's traffic counts that are going on, right? There's also understanding of, as they do traffic counts, what else is it going to be impacted, right? What are unintended consequences that could happen? And so all of that's going to be taken into consideration. Right now, the Director for Public Works, he understands that we need east-west connection. I think the mayor understands it as well. My colleagues, they're hearing it. So, as over the next couple of weeks, this has been something that's been an important conversation to have, me personally with my colleagues, but also with folks in the department. So, as we move forward with what that suggestion looks like, like I said, there's folks in downtown, whether it's Houston First or Downtown Plus, East Downtown as well, which has a management district and TERS. They're all interested in more connection. At the end of the day, think about it this way. Do we really want to close off downtown to anybody? Downtown wants everybody to spend their money in downtown. All right? So it's not like, hey, we don't care about y'all, we're just going to close it. There's always bigger picture, and I hope that I can help paint what that picture looks like as we have this conversation.
As a follow-up to that, though, is there any publicly accessible information being posted with respect to any kind of traffic studies as to the current traffic loads on these streets versus the projected traffic loads as to what the new arrangement is going to be?
Nothing's posted, but we can get that information. We'll get the traffic. We do have, Public Works does this throughout the city for different reasons. So we have access to that information. What we'll do, my team will do, is get that information, share it with Lindsay, so that she can share it with her counterparts at the super neighborhood, and get it to you all as well. Without diving into other conversations, whenever you see a bike lane, and I know it's very controversial, but usually you have wider streets and not that much traffic. Yes, you're congested, you might pick up traffic a bit more, but it's still something where it's okay to increase that capacity, keeping it safe, making sure that you're not deterring people from a 30-minute wait. You're not going to have a parade along Lawndale ever, except for, whenever I pick up my kids from here. Purple, yes.
So, since you are taking this bikeway away from Polk Street, could you maybe perhaps consider putting a bikeway, high comfort bikeway on P Street that you brought up? So P Street is going to be connecting to the east end, and that's very wide. There's a lot of lanes, and you could probably build a very nice, comfortable bikeway over there.
So what I'll do, and this is just so that way folks know who's here. If y'all can just say if you're an Eastwood resident or super neighborhood, or what, just so that way. Because one thing, and I just want to make sure that we don't have these perceived assumptions that they're coming here and nobody knows what this is my neighborhood. Everybody, this is all of our neighborhood, right? But I want to make sure folks know who's speaking, so that way you know that these are your neighbors, right? That are asking for these things. This is not one person asking from the west side or from the north side, okay? So you're from Eastwood, right? Eastwood.
Second Ward, Commerce Street.
Second Ward, Commerce Street. Okay. So her question question was, we're losing a bike lane directly into downtown on Polk. What does a high comfort bike lane look like on Eastwood? For me, everything is on the table. We can increase more high comfort. Peace Street as well. I actually want to see Peace Street become a two-way as well. I'm going to push for as many of these east-west streets to be two ways. You have Franklin, you have Palmer's, Rusk, as many of these that can go into downtown, get it to the point where it's in that more convention area. Because then once you get into like the central part of downtown, it might not make sense to have two-way in some of those, because then you have the rail and so on. But however far we can have a two-way street into downtown, that's my goal at the end of the day. So it's not off the table. I think it's a good suggestion. Like I said, my team's going to be taking note of all these as well. I just want to recognize someone from Councilmember Carter's office as well, staff. So again, you'll have your eyes and ears of your councilman. Who was next? I'm gonna go ahead and get two people.
Robert, I live in East Downtown. So if we lose Polk Street, you cannot fix the damage you're gonna do to the 40 and 21. You cannot replace that like the one at Leland, because then you have to work around the Toyota Center. You say that downtown wants people to come in, but are they making the public transit accommodations that we serve, or they want people driving from Eastwood, driving from Sugarland? Who really wants to come to downtown, and who they gonna advocate for?
Yeah, I think they want everybody to come in, and as someone that represents the East End, I want to make sure East End residents can go in as well. And so to your point, Metro hasn't even been discussed. You're the first person that is really kind of raising that flag. This does do some changes to what some of these routes are coming into downtown. And for many of you, I'm sure some of y'all probably take Metro. I took Metro growing up. For about 8 years, we didn't have a car growing up, and that was our mode of transportation. So I understand how important it is to have Metro and mass transit as well. So Robert, we're going to jot that down. We're going to start having that on our list as far as what does that look like going into downtown.
Metro shouldn't even have signed off on this.
So,
Okay, sorry, yeah.
Yes.
Because there's a lot of questions out here, we want to make sure they're answered.
we got
But I do want to share. Jeanette with Metro should saw her walk in, so we might have some ridership data to share. I don't know if you want to do that now or later, but we can open that up.
so Jeanette and Metro said, go ahead.
Hi. Well, actually, I'm still looking into that information for you, but I should be able to get that to you.
Cool. All right.
Yeah, just real quick, 5,000 riders on the 40.
5,000 per day.
Yes.
That's a good number. Let's go right.
Oh, okay. First off, I'm Clyde Dipple. I'm the Vice President of Eastwood Civic Association. I'm the delegate to the Super Neighborhood 6488, and I'm with the East End Transit Safety Committees. One comment and one question. So the comment would be, I think a lot of the concern from the room is coming from the idea that the 30-day period in which to leave a comment is to get feedback as to a plan. But as Houston First has not yet unveiled what the alternative might look like, I think that's where a lot of the unsettled feelings are coming from, is how do we comment on something that we don't know what it is yet? So I think that it speaks to the need to maybe extend that public comment period, because it sounds like it's already kind of cleared the first hurdle, and now we're in the public comment phase for that 30 days. So I think there's an expression from the neighborhoods that we opt to extend that period. The second is a question for you. As a board member of Houston First and as a council member, you had mentioned that you are committed to keeping access open for Polk.
Yes.
Can you clarify, do you intend to be committed to vehicular access for Polk? Or can you also speak at all to the mayor's opinions, because the mayor has expressed a lot of emphasis on keeping vehicle lanes open? Can you speak to those issues, please?
So, thank you for your comment, first of all. It's something that I intended on wanting to do as well, as possibly an extension. It seems like it'll continue with this process. I'll get more details today as to what that looks like. I want to continue to have this conversation. Vehicular traffic on Polk. So there will still be vehicular traffic if you can just close your eyes if you need to. Polk, make a right on St. Emmanuel, cut a left on Lamar, and then you make, there's a frontage on the north side, actually, yeah, down Polk, if it makes sense from what Houston First has presented to open up cycling and pedestrian accessibility, another mode of getting to downtown, I'm open to that, I'll be honest. The next street over is Bell, that goes in, west into downtown. Figuring out what that looks like. The next street after Bell is Leland. I know the streets because I travel them all the time. And so I'm open to see what Houston First is going to present. If it's helpful for, you know, some of the plans and drawings that they've shared, these are preliminary drawings, so there weren't any engineering studies done at that time, was, and I don't know if y'all know, but the center part of the George R. Brown being blown out essentially, and then expanding south of Polk. That blown out part of George R. Brown is more cycling and pedestrian accessibility as well. So I think it's like Walker, a couple other streets, you can see the map. Those will have more access as well. I'll be honest, I want to see all kinds of transportation. Vehicular, I've said this before, if you have too many cars on the road, I am for multimodal options, including cycling. And I'll say this publicly, I think that's one where I do disagree with the mayor on. Thankfully, we're going to get telephone and we're going to get biking, so relationships matter. But I am for as much as possible folks to, especially in East Downtown and the East End. I ride my bike from Hobby all the way to downtown. It's not a bad mode of transportation, and so I am open to it.
So I guess the clarification would be, did the mayor express any disinterest in closing the vehicle access on Polk?
He did not.
Okay.
He was more upset, and this conversation I had with him about a week and a half ago or so. He was more upset about the communication, lack of communication.
Thank you.
That doesn't fly with me. Sorry.
Hi, I'm Sarah Hirsch. I live on Park Street. I've got two comments. So Houston First, I hear, wants to get this all done by 2026. And that includes the Polk closure right now. And the justification for this closure is based on the I-45 expansion project, which is still years away from completion. We are currently in a political climate where the federal government is refusing to pay FEMA funds to states, and they have the ability to reclaim funds that have already been paid out. This has already happened in New York City. Considering this, the likelihood of this project starting up within the next decade is low, very low. And if GRB succeeds in closing Polk, the only group that may be benefiting from this is the GRB, who will be able to expand and have a lower cost than they would otherwise be able to if Polk were left open. There is no benefit to Eastwood or any neighborhood east of the GRB. However, when this closure negatively impacts the ability for the attendees of the many conventions held at the GRB to get to the GRB, it is not even clear if the GRB will benefit from this closure.
I appreciate that statement. It's getting noted as well. At the federal level right now, we can't control it. It's a beast on every front right now. And so, yeah, there's no real answer to provide. The one thing that I will say is, and we're already having a conversation with ARA, it's the Administrative Regulatory Affairs Department. They oversee, for example, parking right now. They're looking at an ordinance where we can address scooters as well. So when we start talking about what does this look like and how folks are coming in from across the country, across the world to have conventions, as a Houston First board member, one thing that they drilled into is heads and beds. We want folks to come to Houston. How do we do that? We have to make it a world-class city. And so, what that looks like, how we move forward, again, I don't know what we're going to be able to do with federal dollars. I think right now, from what I understand, there's been a lot of blocks court to stop them from holding some of these dollars. So we gotta pray and into those guardrails that we put into our government, right? There's more folks that are, your hand has been, I'm sorry.
No, you go ahead.
Yeah, your hand's been up for a while.
Yeah, first of all, I'm going to say I agree with that wholeheartedly. The timing seems like something that should be reevaluated. But you mentioned that you were going to get back to us regarding the traffic studies. Would you also include parking? And I'm sorry, I'm also from Edo. I'm Marcy from neighborhood 11, East Downtown. But we want to know how the parking is going to be impacted, particularly between Polk and Dynamo Stadium.
Definitely, and I plan on having a meeting with East Downtown specifically, but it'll be open up to everyone, in preparation for FIFA. It's gonna be a headache. It's gonna be a huge headache, I'm just gonna be upfront and honest. It's gonna be a huge headache, so, we need more parking in East Downtown. Cars are all up and down everywhere, 5-6 blocks outside of, the core of East Downtown. Restaurants and bars and whatnot. But yeah, we'll get that, what the parking situation. If y'all notice, ARA, they've actually been putting more of these parking meters as well to help with that kind of changing of time, how long you can be out there. But we'll get that information for you. Okay, back to you.
Yeah, thanks. Been a lot of talk about the impact of Houston First plan with the GRB on Polk, but the mention of the I-45 expansion is important because I'm correct in the chronology of this. It's the I-45 expansion closing Polk that prompted this opportunity by Houston First. Whether or not that's true or not, I want to hear from the TxDOT what they're planning to do to be a part of the solution for neighborhood accessibility. And if either party, TxDOT or Houston First, both of which have access to far more dollars than Eastwood does, could fund a grade underpass at Leland, for instance, as part of this reroute.
Actually, like further down in the East End area.
Right.
So,
There's
just for some clarity, Michael, there was not going to be closed around Polk. It
for
was,
the I-45 expansion.
yeah, it was going to be, it's not a closure, and I think, it's a reroute. But it's not a, one second.
So to be fair, if there is a train stoppage and we have to go around, we consider that to be a stop.
No, because it's not, there's no lights there. Wait 1 second, because again, I think it's important to be very factual about this stuff too. I know that this stuff gets emotional, but like, no, it was a close, and so it's not a close. Essentially, and as I mentioned, right, there's no stoplight, it'll go, it curves around, and then you had access north. So honestly, I've been at that Polk light, and you can probably sit there for a lot longer than what that turnaround will probably be.
So the reroute is part of segment 3 of the
Yes.
I-45 expansion. Do you get in, well, let's say you're in your car or your bike, you're on the right side of the street, you have to take a right to get into the feeder road and then go all the way across those lanes to get into this turnaround that would be on the path, is that correct? That's what this map is indicating.
Yeah. So it's not a closure.
Block of Polk.
My name is Mike Zentek. I work with Hillday Public Relations, and we do outreach on behalf of TxDOT for the 5 project. And Michael, the request for the abandonment of Polk is not related to the I-45 project.
No, we realize that, but we know that this
But it is true, our plan, segment 3, and it's D, but so the downtown part does call, if you guys have the map, it does call for Polk to long connect from East Downtown to downtown. You were right, the way that you would have to get there, the San Emmanuel becomes the de facto frontage road, becomes a frontage road, replacing what Chartres does now as the roadway gets bigger. And then you would have to go on San Emmanuel to the U-turn of Lamar and get on the extension of Hamilton Street that will be built going back behind the GRB that doesn't exist today. And then that will allow you to get access to Polk. Our plans have not changed. And if Polk were abandoned, you could stay on there and get to Keys. And I know that we're trying to listen, we're trying to work with the city. Is there any way to make it easier for bike and ped traffic to get there and get around? I should mention that one of the Walker, and again, the roadway, another thing here is not only get too complicated, but the roadway 45 will be inside 69 in this area, and it will go down. And so the streets will go above instead of it being the highway being above the streets it is now. Walker will be bike ped only. I'd just like to mention that.
So, well, here's my question. So we got 3 loads on Polk currently, really 4 if you include walkers and other people. the bus, the cars, the people biking, and the people walking, they'll have to cross all of the theater lanes, taking a right turn, and then within 2 blocks, get across all of those lanes, take a left to get back to their traffic flow. That's, as I'm sure you can understand, as someone who's driven or ridden a bike or taken a bus, very hectic, it's probably highly unsafe with oncoming traffic. And we're talking a lot about Polk disruptions because of the GRB, but I would really like TxDOT to be a part of the solution for Polk accessibility. For all of these,
No, I certainly would like to be part of that. You know, we coordinate with the city and Metro, and we definitely want to be part of the solution.
And what I will say too, and I've said this whenever we had a conversation about grade separation, right? Eastwood went to County Commissioner Jean Garcia. I say this a lot. The state has $22 billion surplus. Right? Everybody's fighting for it, of course, but TxDOT should be a part of these conversations. And you have somebody that's on the finance committee, Senator Alvarado, a good friend, some of y'all might know him, Armando Wally, who's on the legislative budget board. That's how we're able to find some more dollars for Mason Park. So relationships matter, and so I think we need to make sure when we have these conversations, just be honest about it though, right? It's not a closure, it is a detour, but then if we want to talk about specifically what it looks like to grade separation at Lehman, then let's have that conversation, and let's figure out who needs to be at the table for that conversation as well. And I will say, you live in the city of Houston, but the city of Houston cannot carry the burden for everything. You have a county that you pay taxes to, you have a state, sales taxes that you give money to, you have federal government, every level of government needs to participate. But then that takes you to press those buttons. So I appreciate holding us accountable, holding me accountable, and let's press those buttons where other people need to be held accountable as well.
All right, so the gentleman in the blue hat, and then the one behind him in the maroon will go next. And then Paul, you'll be third. We got you.
Hi, my name is Ruben. I actually live in District B, so near 55, but my wife and I used to live so we come in and out around Polk all the time. So my understanding of the convention center expansion from a plan back in 2011, and I know we haven't heard anything, so this is what I'm going off of, is that Polk is actually going to be stretched to be a 4-lane, road underneath this cap connecting the expansion to the George Ryan Convention Center. And the sales pitch behind that is apparently that expanding the lane can create a pedestrian-friendly opportunity, but adding more lanes is kind of antithetical to pedestrian safety. So have you heard anything about whether this 4-lane expansion on Polk is going to be still going on? And if anything, is there any way we kind of convince them not to do that? Because, more street space is not safety for pedestrians.
Right, and so this is where, again, and my hope is in a couple of weeks we can hopefully have a decent person out here and have our host that one. Make sure that folks know about what's going on. And this is why they're going through the GRC process, right? They want to abandon the actual vehicular as a vehicular street to make it more accessible for pedestrians and cyclists. Those plans are not fully fleshed out, like I mentioned. We're still working through bids and whatnot, so we cannot have that conversation, right? Can't even talk to whoever's applying or submitting their proposals, right? We had a blackout period and stuff like that. So my hope is that in a couple weeks we can share exactly what that plan is. And in addition to that, as Craig mentioned, what does that look like to make sure there's conversations about what that plan looks like as well. Right? And so if you don't have vehicular traffic on Polk, then it will be safer. Right? It's essentially what you have. So that's not Esplanade, right? Or now they abandoned that street and folks can ride their bikes now. Right? It's essentially something like that. It'll definitely look a lot better, and I say this, I know disrespect to my East Downtown residents, but if it's going to be by the George R. Brown, it's going to be a lot better for sure.
Gentleman in the maroon, and then Paul, and then Tina had her hand up.
Thank you. Well, first of all, I'm also from Eastwood.
Eastwood?
Yes. I would like to ask for caution on how you mentioned the reroute, because the George R. Brown can also argue the same. Even if they close that segment, it's a reroute back to Polk through Leland. So it's it's a weird comment. I mean, they are closing that segment of Polk, I-45 is, and Georgia Brown is proposing additional closure to Polk. So it's, everything could be a reroute. So it is not a reroute, it is a closure of that segment of Polk. And the other thing, I had a question, the bike lane on Polk Street, it's not that it's going to be closed, it's going to be closed at that segment. Is that correct? Or there's
I don't know. I don't know. So
right
right now I don't know what those plans are for the bike lane that Polk Street moving in that closure reroute. I'm gonna use both of them.
Because the bike lane's long, I mean,
Yeah.
it's all the way through.
Yeah.
Okay, so if you don't know, that's fine. Well, anyway, that's what I have, but it's important that we.
I can appreciate that, and I'll definitely I'll understand. I'll digest it as well as I have my conversations. There is a closure directly, but what I don't want folks to, because I don't want folks to think that what we're going through now is a closure with both, with the GRC policies. That's a full closure, and that's different from this reroute or you know. And so that's again, and I know we can dice it up how we want, but I just want to make sure. So I appreciate you sharing for sure. I just want to make sure we're going to share.
They're closing Polk Street all the way downtown. They're only proposing to close that
Right.
segment.
That
It's the same amount of segment that I-45 is proposing to close. So it's all the reroute.
so in your mind, Texas has there. This was already closed.
Yes.
Okay. That's good. That's fair. That's fair.
Then the direct connection to Polk
That's fair.
downtown is closed.
That's
Yes,
fair.
I-45 first.
Alright, so we have Paul, and then we have Tina, Nate, Amy, Robert, the gentleman in the black hat, just to let us see.
Okay, so I'm an Eastwood resident. I have two comments. So if there is, someone mentioned, wonderfully mentioned using P's as a east-west street, potentially with bike traffic. I would mention to you that P's also is the connector for I-45 going northbound, and there would need to be some serious traffic calming devices on that street, because right now, it's a bloody freeway. Okay? It's really an extension of the freeway, so putting a bike on there, we can't compete with my other comment in reply to, we have other levels of government that whom we can address our concerns to. However, at the state level, they're forcing this highway on us that no one, apart from people in Chambers, Bell, Montgomery, and Liberty County voted to get. Right? We don't want it.
Yeah. I agree. The traffic calming devices, Paul, are very important. If you take Jefferson, even outside of downtown, I don't know who's going to ride a bike there. It is tough, but I think this is where we really have to press, and this is me having this conversation with local public works. What does that look like, right? What does the traffic calming devices look like? Whether it's lighting, whether it is a high comfort lane, as was mentioned as well, to make sure that folks can feel comfortable doing that. And I hear you when it comes to, I'm gonna own what happened in the last couple of years, right? I have to own it. It's already here. I'm a part of the Transportation Policy Council with HGAC. It's continuous. Relationships matter. So building relationships with Montgomery, Waller, and those county commissioners and those county judges is important. It's tough. We all know what Prop B did, and it's tough, right? I appreciate the heavy lift that was done, but the votes weren't there. They weren't there, and we're not set up to fight these other counties, these other smaller municipalities right now in the current structure at HGAC. It's top of mind as well. I'm thankful to have access to that opportunity by sitting on the Transportation Policy Council. It's another fight. It's what it comes down to. Tina.
Tina.
I'm speaking further to what Tina Brady, Eastwood. But, I guess I'm just now coming to the realization that, because people have been saying that Polk is being closed to the I-45 expansion. And what I've been hearing and saying back again is, no, that it wasn't closed because the language is super important here. Regardless of what words you want to frame, we want to frame them.
Yeah.
So, regardless of what words we want to put on, Polk is being closed. I mean, it's being rerouted all the way over here. You know, you can't tell somebody on a bicycle, it's all right, you just go down 2 blocks over here across 4-lane highway, come back again, and see the new roads. But, my point here is that I would like to recommend that we be more clear in our language there, that it is a closure of Polk, regardless of how you want to parse that word. You know, you can get somewhere from anywhere, so nothing closed there, right? So, is it true then that with the I-45 extension, this piece right here on the map just isn't going to go through anymore? So my thinking that OU's build GRB around Polk was 9, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So because it's not going to go through,
Yeah.
it's not a matter of, it's not due to, because what I had in my head, because the GRB is expanding, it's going to consume Polk. And
No, this was gonna happen.
that's not the
Yeah.
case.
This was gonna happen, and this is, and the engineers should speak to more the technical aspect of it, but essentially they weren't gonna be able to drop the freeway low enough to be able to have Polk cross over.
Yeah, so Polk is dead because
Yeah, and again, I'm not trying to parse words, right? But
I hear you. Everybody knows that you can go around, and I can get somewhere, I can get everywhere.
Right, definitely. And this was, and again, and this is, with all due respect to the textile folks that are here, this was a conversation years ago.
Yeah.
And so, you know, it was, I think Paul mentioned it, this textile fight, the lawsuit, it was a headache for everybody. It wasn't anything taken lightly. We are where we are now, so if you're saying it's closed, it's closed, it's been closed for the last 2 years, it's indecisive. But it is.
Nate?
Thank you.
I did one, after hearing you say, the Polk's closure, or with Houston first requesting closure of Polk, they felt, I did a casual Google Maps thing, that's 1.1 miles.
From Polk to
Polk to Lamar, across the highway, and back to Bell. And then now I have an additional question I didn't want to teach, but, so that was a dedicated highway off ramp, not actually a street. At this point? So how would that even work for us?
No, that's very true.
If you were saying that
Not to
has
see
a
it.
lot of help and interjected and said,
That was going to be a highway.
Yeah, that's correct. From 69 south and we around.
so it seems to me that we're really all going to take essentially a 1.5 mile back piece, so we are really based on his information.
Yeah. So when it comes to vehicular traffic, I know this picture we're speaking about bike, cycling, pedestrian, or we're talking about vehicular. Yeah, and you're correct, right? So the next street over would be Eden, which is a westbound street, and we would like to see it as a 2-way. And then the next street over piece, which is an eastbound street.
And then that leads back to my very first question of the meeting, which was Saturday.
It's okay.
How do we get two-way, because this has been a big topic.
So
What does need to be done to address this?
once we run through the traffic engineering study and whatnot, I think it's definitely gonna be pressure, to make sure that this happens. We've closed down streets, we've abandoned streets. This has to happen. Leland has to happen no matter what for me. Commerce and Franklin, we have to make those happen no matter what. We need to make sure that vehicular traffic is still working for folks in the East End.
But I mean, like, what do you need help from the community to get this done?
So and this is the thing, right? Like, do you charge with no JRC, or do you charge with no JRC and open up Leland? Like, and this is something that I'm open to conversation with you all. I want to see Leland open, so if y'all have these conversations when you're calling, or if you, so you know your large customers, we want to see Leland open up, opening up that dialogue is important right now, Nate. Show up to council and express that as well. We don't want to lose our eye on the prize right now, right? Which is what we're hearing right now for, which is hope. But also and this is where I need you all to, as a community, to start suggesting the options, right? It was one of the agenda items that Lindsay had shared. What are other options, right? What does that look like? What does that look like for vehicular? What does that look like for cyclists? What does that look like for pedestrians? I'm here to listen to that as well.
We actually have a little cute building over here. We have Robert and we have Amy, and we have the gentleman in the black hat. And we have Kyle and Lisa. Gentleman in the yellow shirt, Thomas, and then the little black hat. Yes. Robert and then Amy.
Thank you. Robert Gallegos, Vice President of Eastwood Country Club Place, former council member. I'm really surprised to hear that Mayor Whitmire is surprised about this whole concert. This is something that was brought to my attention several years ago. And council member, you were there as my director of community outreach there. So to say he's surprised is not true. Because back then, when I was told that Polk possibly could be closed, because back then, as you know, they still hadn't approved the realignment of 45 and 59 yet, so it was just guessing. And it was brought to my attention, it could be closed. So then I asked Public Works, I asked Textile's representative many times at these meetings, I had asked that Leland would be a two-way, and Franklin would go back to a two-way. So that way we won't lose connectivity in downtown. My fear is that we live here in the East End and Edo, 10 minutes from downtown Houston, and we're going to have to get on I-10 and 45 to get in and out of downtown. And we're basically pulling a fast one. When I saw that sign that we have a 30-day period to make comments, no, this was going on several years ago. And why is Public Works not even here?
Right.
I've been asking them and asking them and asking them about Leland, turning it into a two-way. Every time I see them, do y'all know about Leland being turned into a two-way? Oh. Then I've been asking them about Franklin being turned into a two-way. But there's no answers. They're pulling a fast one. We need to be ready to make sure that we don't lose connectivity in and out of downtown. We need to get on the Gulf Freeway. I do not want to go on the Gulf Freeway or I-10, go to downtown. That's right.
So for some clarifications, so we already know Polk was closed, right? That's what we already agreed on. Polk has been closed, and it happened before years ago. So what we're talking about today, I think it's important to clarify. It's a JRC process. Abandoning a street, or this one actually still shows, even though it's a closure, but it goes around, detour, whatever you want to call it, you still have access to vehicular to Polk. No one's putting a fast one. What is happening right now is a JRC process to abandon that street so that way no more vehicular traffic happens. And that has just happened within the last couple of weeks. The application was submitted by Houston First a few weeks ago. So again, let's make sure that we're being honest about what's being said.
So the reason for the abandonment sign is because there was going to be a difference.
Correct. You were going to have vehicular traffic still going up west into Polk from the frontage up west. So there was still going to be vehicular traffic. That's what that arrow shows, and TechSide has shared it with us as well. This abandonment is so that way vehicular traffic doesn't go down Polk anymore. So again, it's important to really. So I don't have those plans, Tina, and that's where again, Houston First is they're flushing out those engineering, plans and whatnot. So my goal is to have them here to speak to you all. The other thing when it comes to TDO and real estate, it's a quick call, right? They're here, transportation range operation. I've been having conversations with Randy, the director. It's a priority for me as well to make sure that Eden is open two-way. So let's focus on what's really happening. There's no fast one being pulled on anybody.
Yes. So we do have 7 people in the queue right now for questions. Amy is next. And then the gentleman in the black hat. And then also we'll go.
I'm Amy Bin. I live in Iowa for 14 years, and I've been following the I-45 very closely for a very long time, So my question, because you haven't brought this up, is the Pierce elevated closing and the additional east-west connectors that are going to be lost because of the closing of that freeway as part of I-45 project, that's planned as part of this whole downtown, midtown merger that's coming.
Yeah.
So that is a critical piece that we're not talking about, and that is going to tremendously change traffic patterns, I would say, and so we cannot lose any of our street roads at all. Like, I mean, because we are all of a sudden going to have all of these people that normally drop in downtown using that or trying to get down the Parkway or whatever. Those people are all going to now be trying to go to service roads on downtown. Okay, and then we are going to be gradually expanding Pierce, make it more pedestrian friendly and all of these options, and we're going to be very limited in our transport. So please put that impact that is not even listed on this map, that is super significant, that everybody needs to understand is really the impact. And also, just because I've been to all the tech stop meetings, Georgia Brown is planning running trails, okay, around the Georgia Brown. Those are pictures that were shown at the tech stop. Okay, as for what Georgia Brown was expanding, it was running trails all around here. So if they are closing the streets, build running trails around a freeway that is going to be a lot of gas fumes and stuff, this is just not a good thing, and it is not in the community's interest. And I know we don't have the plans yet, but that was on the boards that tech stop meetings that I went to, and I said, what is this running trail thing that they're projecting here is how we could re-envision downtown?
Yeah.
Like, well, these would be around the Georgia Brown.
So
The downtown district has had plans and, or they've had these plans for a long time, I believe that.
and I think so drawings and actual like engineering plans are two different things, as you know. So we've had some drawings. The downtown Georgia Brown drawings have been out there, right? What does it look like when they blow out the center part of down Georgia Brown? So these drawings, you still got to do environmental study, phase 1, phase 2. You still got to do traffic studies. You still got to do a lot of due diligence at the end of the day. But again, so what that drawing looked like doesn't mean that it's gonna look like that at the end. But what I will say is, and I appreciate you bringing up the Pierce elevator as well, Amy, because these decisions have been made, quite frankly, years ago. Pierce elevator is going to be, decommissioned. And if you don't know about that, this happened 2 years ago. What they're looking at wanting to do there, and so in my time here in this position, I will make sure that we share everything with you. You got to be a part of every aspect of the conversation. So we'll make sure, Amy, that we start having that conversation with Downtown Plus as well. Like I said, Alan is here. I appreciate him being here. I'm sure he's taking notes as well. I'm going to be sitting down with Chris Larson soon. There's a lot of things that are moving in this city. If you were at the Civic Club meeting a few weeks back, I'm telling you, we're at 300 million plus deficit for fiscal year 26. But what I will say is, and I just got to say this, but I knew all this was coming. That's why I decided to run. So I'm here, I'm ready, let's get to work.
All right.
So we've got the gentleman in the black hat, we have Kyle, we have Lisa, we have the gentleman from Yellow Shirt, I'm sorry. Please be sure to say your name, what neighborhood you're from.
15 minutes, and we say 15 minutes, not because of me, but
We only have the room until 8.
yeah, I'm willing to pay an extra 30 minutes to drive me too, but
I'm the gentleman in the black hat. My name is Savant Moore. I'm HISD trustee representing all Northeast. I'm your neighbor. I live in 5th Ward. So one, is there a moratorium that can happen for the extension until after FIFA 2026? Also, how do we keep vehicular traffic on Polk to stop the abandonment? Because I know oftentimes we think about people visiting, but us as neighbors in the Fifth Ward, we're blocked by trains, 59, I-10. We cut through your neighborhood on St. Emmanuel to go to work in downtown.
To get other trains.
Yeah, so it's like we a double stop. So when y'all making these plans, do y'all think of your neighbors to the north of you?
I appreciate that, and I appreciate the work folks doing here as well. I have a good relationship with Councilmember Jackson. I'll make sure that I start looking her team into these conversations. It's important. We do have a large representation here as well. So keep having that conversation with them. The responsibility is for everybody to hold them accountable to these conversations as well as Ron. Eastwood probably just thinking about Eastwood right now. This is being quite frank, right? But thank you for opening up that conversation so we can think bigger as well.
Hey, Kyle Rogers. I'm on the board of Eastwood Civic Association. You know, I'm looking at this TxDOT map that got handed out earlier, and I don't love it, you know, but that bridge, we've crossed that bridge. It's gonna be a fiasco for everybody basically the entire city for over a decade. But that's just something we're gonna have to live with because that's state money. Now, the other thing that I want to mention is the World Cup matches. That's 7 days. You know, that's a lot of money. I get it, but that's 7 days. We live here our entire lives. So, with all that said, how do we stop this? Like, we don't want that portion of Polk abandoned. What do you need us to do to stop that from happening?
So this GRC process isn't for FIFA, right? It's not for that 1 month.
They're rushing it.
Sorry?
They're rushing it for FIFA.
No. They're rushing it because of the expansion.
We only have a little bit
They're
of
not
time.
rushing, they're not.
I'm just trying to get a time check on this. We do have a few more people with questions.
Okay, so how do we do to stop it, right? Again, we need to go through the process. There's a process for it. I don't know how much more calls we've had for this GRC process, Cal, compared to everyone else. On average, it's 3 calls for GRC committee or GRC process. Give me the opportunity to extend it, and I was already told that we are going to be able to extend it. So we've crossed that path already, that bridge. And then let me bring peace and first. Listen to Houston first. And listen to Houston first. You know, and I know everybody feels like we all have the answers to everything. But let's be open to these conversations at least. Quite frankly, even as your elected official in your councilman, I don't know everything that's going on. That's why I have a team to be able to help and support the work that I'm doing.
Sure.
I don't have a date yet. I'm hoping within the next couple of weeks, Ricky.
I'm Lisa Hunt. I live in Eastwood. I'm concerned about the lack of coordination on this project. It seems to me, and I want to thank you for holding this meeting and for the transparency that you're inviting us into. I'm also mindful, though, that we own the street of Polk, the city of Houston, and as citizens, it does not belong to George R. Brown right now. And I'm concerned about the fact that they're able to apply for an abandonment before anybody has seen the plans, the final plans, or the funding. You know, what does that look like? I want to echo Kyle's comment about the fact that we are living here all the time. I understand the need for economic generativity for the city of Houston, but I feel like as a neighborhood, whether it's the 5th Ward or the 2nd Ward, we're being ghettoized another generation, being cut off from economic activity and growth. And so what I would ask for in these meetings, I want to see maps, I want to see a traffic study, I want to see the drainage and how all that's going to impact, and you shouldn't have to be up here without a picture. And we need a picture of what this looks like, and you need support from Public Works.
Yeah.
And if you need us to organize to come down to council with proposals, we can certainly do that. But don't ask us to go to TERS and management district meetings and all of these others. If they could come here with us, we want to support their technical expertise, but it's a sham to ask for public engagement at the 25th hour.
Yeah.
Thank
So
you.
thank you. Thank you for the applause. I appreciate your comments as well. Ideally, right, I would want those drawings, engineering drawings from with Houston First. This is not my meeting. I came because I was asked by constituents to show up, and I'm here, and I'm always going to show up. Right? Whether it's good, bad, ugly, I don't care. I'm going to show up. And so you are correct. As far as I don't know what so there are going to be some utilities. I think there's a 70-inch water line that was built that's going to have to be moved. That's going to cost money. It's going to more than likely come from Houston First. It is going to come from Houston First. It's not going to be a city saying I got to move this water. So again, there's a lot more that
Houston First.
Houston First. So, and I apologize, I should have given you an overview. But so Houston First is basically historically was the Convention and Visitors Bureau. They're tasked with now that they're LGC, and they're tasked with bringing folks to Houston.
Are they a city agency? Who owns them?
Yeah.
So they're an extension of the city, right? But we do get to a point, the mayor appointed the new chair about a little over a year ago. Myself and Councilman Troy Carter are ex-officials, so we don't have a vote, but we have a voice, and we're able to bring these conversations up to you all. And it's important to make sure that we have a seat at the table. But these are all board members that are nominated and appointed and approved by mayor and city council. These folks are tasked with, and as I mentioned earlier, bringing heads to beds, right? Heads to beds. How do we make Houston more attractive? And I get it. Long time Houstonian. I grew up in Eastwood, right? But as cities change, right? We've gone through decades of deferred maintenance. We've gone through decades of not being able to right-size our departments. Just a whole bunch of things that should have been addressed decades ago. They just weren't. It's just what was happening, right? So now, as a city, one of our revenue sources, aside from ad valorem tax, which is your property tax, is sales tax. And again, what are you trading for right at the end of the day? And I think, and I said this at the meeting that we had 2 weeks ago. Compromise is not a bad thing. We can't be just black and white. And if it's just black and white, then we're not really genuinely trying to do the right thing for everybody. I have to listen to you. I hope you listen to me, and then we come to an agreement that somebody's going to compromise. We're all going to compromise a bit, and whatever that is. And my goal is that compromise, it's not more for you or it's not more for me. That's my goal. Yeah, that might sound naive, but that is my goal in anything that I do. And so, you're right. And so my goal is that Houston First will be here soon to present to you all traffic study, the traffic numbers. We're going to get all that information. So my team has been here, jotting down notes. We're going to be requesting from from Public Works, from Transportation, Drainage, and Operation. My goal is to hopefully even have the director for Public Works to be here, Randy, good guy. If you don't know, he's been really shifting our Public Works to a space where we're really becoming more efficient. It's taking time. It takes time to create this city that needs to be more efficient. It hasn't been doing it for decades. I think there's a couple more questions.
There's 4 total left. Last one's gonna be Aaron. We got someone in the yellow shirt, we got Thomas, we got this one up here in the air, and that's gonna be it.
Yeah.
Essentially, she covered the majority of the brunt of my question, which is I'm trying to grapple with the dissonance about trying to make decisions over something nebulous where we're not presented with any type of an overview plan, none of the engineering outlays. A 2-dimensional printout does not even begin to cover what it is that we're supposed to be even making comment on. I understand the scope of this meeting is about the closure of Polk. Okay. However, we understand how that folds into everything else over this whole project. Now, if you'll permit me, I would like to refer my question to Sarah.
Okay, so I just want to let everyone know that in the front, a concerned citizen is following the Polk situation, and he's got to sign up for updates. There's a clipboard in the front. You can either sign it, or there's a QR code at the top that you can sign up for the update. That's all I got.
Thank you. And actually, this is more than what we even had, and this is not even ours, it's TechStop, so.
Well, it's ridiculous. I was in construction for decades, and
So-
you've got to have a plan.
So there was a,
I mean,
right, and
you know,
that-
show me, otherwise those lines disappear really quickly.
Got it, and like, as was mentioned by real estate for public works, there's a process and there's things that they're gonna be looking into from different departments as well. Fire department has to say,
So in other words, it's a constantly moving goalpost.
I'm sorry, say that again?
That we're dealing with a situation where it's so malleable, so flexible, that we're dealing with constantly moving goalposts.
That started about 2 weeks ago, so we're hoping that we can plan it, situate it, and then there's not moving anymore.
All right, so Thomas, sorry, that got really loud, I did not expect that.
Hi, I'm Thomas Simpson, I'm a resident of Eastwood. I just wanted to say, you know, other cities around Texas, Dallas, and Austin are both going through convention center expansions too, and they've had public processes, multi-year public processes that included looking at different alternatives, and having public engagement periods before they approve the final plan, looking at all the impacts, et cetera, and we haven't seen any of that. So the fact that this is all supposed to happen in the next less than, I mean, we're closing a road, and we're proposing to close the road in 30 days and have the convention center up and running, expansion in less than 2 years. I mean, it's, voting to close. Abandon.
Yeah, we're not voting to. Let them come over again, so for clarity.
Okay, public comment is over.
Well, I mentioned to the council member that we will extend the post. We will extend the sign posting to receive additional comments for longer than the traditional 30-day period. But the process does not take 30 days, it won't be abandoned in 30 days. That's the time frame we have for typical, because again, the streets are abandoned throughout the city just on a regular basis. So that's our standard time frame is the 30 days. And so we will extend this, especially given the amount of feedback that we've had on this project, and we hear you. So we'll extend the sign posting to be able to, once Houston First presents, whenever they're gonna have their meeting, to have additional comments. So we'll extend it past that week. It should, we're going to have a wrong phone
Okay.
I just want to ask that, can we make sure that Houston First will come and present plans on what's going to happen?
That's the goal, Thomas.
That's going to present alternatives and propose solutions for how, you know, if there are impacts to this, it's going to be mitigated, and ideally, how they're going to help pay for it.
Yes.
We can also host another town hall, kind of like this as well. So, and then you've got Aaron, and you never get your question answered, but we do have to try to end it.
Yeah, if y'all have questions, please submit them to Lindsay. Keep it as organized as possible. She'll email it to us, and we'll continue to have dialogue with you all. This isn't the last time we're talking.
I'm Kevin Grillo. I'm also a resident of here in Eastwood. To go on with something I heard earlier, we don't know what the plan is, what the GRB is extending. Is it a physical building out over, to take out that road, and if so, can they not make a plan that does something like where at the Wortham, where you can actually drive underneath it, so we don't close down that part of the road?
So this plan this is a plan that TechStop had, and I don't know if you can see it, but there is actually around, there's going to be basically similar to what you have built into the garage. Skybridge. Skybridge essentially. That's what was shown initially, If you go to the textile website, it has that, so you can see different drawings on what that would look like. That's why I feel like Polk can still remain open, because you can have a slide bridge. Now, what they bring to us with this meeting, if it's something where it might not be safe because vehicular traffic is moving down Polk, and again, they're in the process right now where they have plans, right, but they're bidding for some of these things, so they can't. I shouldn't even know who's submitting their projects or their proposals for this, right? So that's what makes it difficult right now. Once we get them to the point where they can share that, definitely they'll be here. A side bridge is amazing to me, right? I mean, they still go.
Alright, and then we have Erin.
Right here. I'm Erin, also a resident of Eastwood. So as a board member of Houston First and also our city council member, it seems like you have the potential to have quite a bit of influence on this. And I think resoundingly tonight, you're hearing concern and a want for vehicular traffic to remain open on Polk. And I'm wondering if you're willing to commit tonight to advocate for that on our behalf.
So Clay asked that same question. I want vehicular traffic tonight, right? I also want to make sure that I'm open to what is happening as well. And I don't take this position lightly. Even sitting on Houston First. I will be sharing these comments at the board meeting that I had Wednesday or Thursday this week. So I will commit that I do want vehicular traffic tonight, but that doesn't mean that things evolve. Right? Can't evolve, and that's what I should play sitting behind you. Depending on what is being presented, what makes sense, it'll be brought to you all throughout. And my hope is that everybody here, there's some folks that aren't speaking up as much as they want to, but everybody here is open to an honest dialogue with your neighbors from 5th Ward, 2nd Ward, to East End, Eastwood, about what is the best route. And my hope is that you will be open, everybody here will be open to this conversation.
Thank you very much for being here. Just so that y'all know, call into the city secretary to let them know that you want to come speak. You need to bring your ID with you. You need to be there by 1:30 to get your security. And also just a pro tip, take that light rail because I tell you, it takes you just 2 blocks away. You don't have to fiddle with parking. It's awesome.
Thank you, Lindsay, Ricky, Priscilla.
We have all of our contact information up here for all of our super neighborhoods so that you can email us anything that you need. We've got Councilmember Martinez. Feel free to take a picture, come up and get it. We're very happy that you're here.
Yeah, and maybe 5th Ward super neighbors should be here next one, right? Again, I appreciate Ron bringing that to our attention. We need to think about everybody.
And then the last thing I'm going to just tell you, the super neighborhood presidents in the East End are going to formally request that you ask for an extension on the comment period, which sounds like we're going to get, but we're going to officially request it.
Thank you. You send it to me, and I'll send it to Don so that it verifies why I'm asking for this extension. But
And everybody get on Councilman Martinez's email list.
yes.
Because he did email about this meeting, and it would be very helpful if we got that.
Definitely. If y'all follow me on Facebook, I recap every Wednesday to keep you updated on what I'm doing, what we're doing. It's all about being honest and transparent and doing some good work as much as possible. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's why I expected. We're still live streaming.